Early access seems to have become the norm for many video games. What was once a simple means for developers to get final testing for a game just before launch has blossomed into a lucrative business model. It can work to create fantastic games, but it can also be used as a crutch to fund games that otherwise would not exist. I'm MediocreMilton, and in this video, I'm going to discuss my experience with early access games and what I think needs to happen to create a positive experience for both players and developers. If you don't find this video informative, please click the like button and consider subscribing for more videos like this. Also, I do stream over on Twitch, link in the description below. Let's get started. In the background, you're going to see footage from Scrap Mechanic Survival. This is the game that I've been playing most recently. It's the subject of my last 30 videos or so on my YouTube channel. And it's a game I've had a lot of fun with, but at the same time, it's also been frustrating. This game initially released in January of 2016, I believe, and I started playing it in April of 2020. The reason I started playing was because a survival mode was added. So up until that point, the game was in early access, and all it had was a creative mode. And I believe it also might have had a challenge mode at one point, which was later added on. And during that time, the developers were working on the survival mode. It took them approximately 4.5 years to release it. It released in early May of 2020. And during that time, they put out lots of dev blogs that show what they were working on and everything. But it took such a long time that I think many players that were originally hoping for it probably abandoned the game. Now, fortunately for me, I didn't come across the game until right before the survival came out. And I saw a trailer. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this trailer. I'm going to show you how the trailer, in my opinion, it was what hooked me on playing survival in the game. But at the same time, after playing a little bit of the game, probably for about a week or two, I quickly realized that what I saw in the trailer was probably maybe what the game will be in maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now. Who knows how long it's going to take because of the rate that the game is developed. But it's certainly not what the game was at launch. And it certainly has frustrated me. And it's the reason I decided to record this video. And it's also why I talked about it on my Twitch stream. So I got feedback from lots of people on my Twitch stream about their experience with early access games. Many of them have played this game as well as other games that I've played. So real quick, let's hop over and take a short look at part of the survival trailer. And then we'll flip back over and show how the game actually plays. And you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about, as this is an example, the perfect example of what what many early access games tend to be. So this is a section of the survival trailer that hooked me on this game. As you can see, there's fantastic base building. Look at this huge building that these players have put together. And in this game, basically you plant crops. If you're not familiar with it, you plant crops and the crops trigger raids. And so at midnight every night, raids will happen if you've planted enough crops. The game has lots of stuff. It has these bots that you can use to automate things. It's a very fun game. I have hundreds of hours into it. I've definitely had a lot of fun with it. But what we're going to see here is this part right here is what really hooked me. So as you can see, here come the bots, and they're attacking the wall. And from the looks of this video, and from my experience with other games that seem similar to this, what they end up doing is they end up targeting the wooden part of the wall rather than the stone part of the wall. And I believe the reason they did that was because they're going to attack the weakest part. So as you can see, the bots here look like they have pretty solid AI, right? They're attacking the players. They're all over the place. Look, they're up on top of the balconies here. And there's these fancy traps right here that you can use. And then you have bots coming up through the windows and stuff like that. So this just made it look like there was just great AI. And as you can see, the bots were just thrown there with all these different traps. So there's all these cool traps. And this just looked like an amazing game. Here's another part of the game. This is the warehouses. We can watch through this really quickly. So the warehouses are essentially like dungeons. You wander through them. There's these tape bots, which are much harder to kill, honestly, than what they're showing here. And here's the boss bot. This boss bot looks very formative, but what you end up finding out is he's not very hard to kill. So in that trailer, you could see there was a massive raid. It looked like the bots were smart. Now here's a segment of a video I did previously. This is about how you can build a small farm that is literally AFKable. And as you can see, those bots that in the trailer that looked like they were just super smart and could weave their way through through hallways and over ledges to get to you are actually quite primitive in terms of their AI. Essentially what they do is they spawn and then they walk in a straight line towards their target. In this case, because it's a raid, they're targeting the crops that I just picked. And what the game currently has is if you build blocks that have a certain durability, in this case 6 or higher, which is what those gray blocks out there are, they're concrete 2 blocks, the bots will literally just stand there and will not attack unless you attack them or get too close. So that raid that made it look like the game was just awesome and that there would be these crazy raids and there would be bots that could like weave their way in and out of traffic or in and out of like tunnels and stuff like that, and you could guide them through the tunnels like in many other tower defense games, and also that you could build crazy traps, just is not the case right now. So this is a video of a small raid. I'm gonna show you a huge raid, or in the case of this game, the biggest raid one of the biggest raids you can probably get, because I later on as I was playing this game, built a massive farm. So let's hop on over there, and we're going to show you what happens when you have a farm that's about 600 times the size of this farm. Now, as you can see, this farm's a little bit bigger. Haha, it's actually way bigger. The previous farm, I think, had about 25 plots. This one has over 6,300. As far as I know, it was the largest farm built in survival in this game up to this point. And you'll see the raids coming. And what you're going to see is there are a couple that spawn inside the fence. That's not really supposed to happen. I think it's probably a bug. They shouldn't be doing that. But you'll also notice there's a lot more bots this time. Now, one thing you're going to notice is they're just standing there. So those bots that seem to be smart and breaking through walls and stuff like that, once again, you can basically just build a wall that they can't break through. And in this case, I just have 2 rails going across. They can't do anything. And honestly, if I would have built floors out to those walls, the couple bots that you're going to see that I'm shooting now would not have even spawned inside of the base. So this is what the game actually has turned into right now, and this is why I'm kind of disappointed. I thought the game, based on the trailer, had enemy AI, which was just fantastic and was just going to allow me to build crazy traps. And we've done traps before and stuff like that, and it was fun to do. And I honestly, to be completely honest, I've put hundreds of hours into this game, so I've more than got my money's worth because it was only a $20 game. And I'm sure they're going to add stuff in the future. But the trailer for the game was kind of misleading. And honestly, this is just like the latest example of a game I played where what the game is supposed to be doesn't end up happening, like turning out to what it actually is. So in this case, I was led to believe, and many of us were led to believe, because I have some friends that also wanted to play the game. We played together, and they've all since like basically stopped playing it or taken a break from it, is that the trailer of the game, it was almost like watching a trailer at a like an E3 or a conference like that, where developers will put out a trailer that makes a game look just 100 times better than it actually is. So like I said, in that trailer, it just looked like the bots were like ravenous for your crops, and they would do anything they can to get in. But in this case, they basically just stand there. And as you're going to see in a minute, I'm pretty sure I hop outside of the base. Their AI is actually so poor right now at this point that they're just going to stand here. So I'm going to jump out here and I'm going to walk past them, and you're going to see that not only will they not attack the walls, they won't even attack me. So those bots that look like they were just a huge threat, in reality are not a threat at all. And this game currently doesn't have a story mode. It does have some bugs, and I will give the devs a lot of credit. They have fixed a lot of the performance issues and a lot of the bugs. It still has a long way to go because I think it's on a custom engine. So the game really has performance issues when there's lots of things going on. And in fact, this would have been a normal size raid for a small farm like I had built before. We had about a 100 crop farm when the game first came out. I think within the first like 5 or 6 days the game came out, we had a 100 crop farm, and we were getting raids of like this size. And what was happening was the game was getting 5 to 10 frames per second. It was so bad that the devs, in order to fix it, the easiest solution was, rather than improving the engine, which obviously they couldn't do in a very short amount of time, was to reduce the raid size, thus making the game even easier. So what this has all led to is just, in my opinion, it's an early access game, which I knew what I was getting into when I bought it, but the game's also been out for 4.5 years. And if this is 4.5 years of progress, then I'm just wondering how long it's going to take for them to get to a finished product. Because the game's supposed to have a story mode. It's supposed to have like this living world where there's enemies wandering around. There are enemies wandering around, but honestly, you can walk around the entire game, the map, and just really never feel like there's a threat. In fact, the bosses that you've seen in that video, I did a video where I basically just ran into them with one of my cars and just make them explode without any damage. So they're supposed to be the hardest enemies in the game, and you can just literally crush them with a car. You can just run into them with a car, launch them up in the air, and they just explode on impact. So this is just like I said, this is the latest example of a game that is like this. And the reason I'm recording this is I just wanted to have a discussion with you guys. Anybody who's been playing early access games, like, what's your opinion on early access games? Do you like them? Do you think it's acceptable that games like this, and I don't want to call out Axolot games because, like I said, this game's really fun, and honestly, if I uninstalled it and never played it again, I more than got my money's worth. But at the same time, I also feel like the game has a lot of potential, but how long am I going to have to wait for that potential? And at the rate they're currently updating the game, I just don't think that I'm going to even be playing it by the time they finish it. They also happen to be the publisher of another game. They're not the developer, they're the publisher of another game that I really like, which is Raft. It's also a survival game. And Raft has a similar story where it's been in development for many years in early access, and they release parts of the story piecemeal. So they've currently only released the first chapter, which took, I'm not even sure how many years it took for that to come out. They're going to release the second chapter, I think, sometime in the fall. So maybe about 2 months after this recording, 3 months after this recording. We've been waiting that forever. But the bottom line is the game has been out for years, and I think it started in 2018, honestly, but I'd have to look that up. But it's been in early access for years, and it's a fun game, but it's just like we're basically being paid, we're paying the developers to be the playtesters of a game. And that just leads to the question of like, why should we, or do you think it's fair that we should pay to fund the development of a game and basically playtest the game for free with the, and maybe never get the actual final experience that we're looking for? The one that most people would know of probably is Star Citizen, which has been in development for I think 7 years now, and it has raised over $300 million in funding for it, and the game's still not even close to being finished. There's other games that I've seen. Someone recommended 7 Days to Die. 7 Days to Die looks like a fun game. It's been in development since 2013. And in fact, if we real quick flip over to my Steam wish list, and it just so happens that I noticed that my Steam wish list is just full of one thing that is just very common, and you're going to quickly see what that is. So this is my Steam wish list. Now, I've only been playing on PC really for about 7 months as of when I recorded this. And what you're going to notice is I have a lot of games on my wish list. My library is actually not that large, but there's one common thing that you're going to see in here, and it's this little blue box, and that means early access. So that means these games, when they release or they have been released, are in early access. So if you click on a game like Stranded Deep's been out since January 23rd of 2015. And if I click on this game, I can go in here, and Steam has a cool thing where you can click on this, and it tells you, explains what is an early access game. So Steam requires the developer to let the players know before they buy it what they mean by early access. So in this case, they have something like, they see our roadmap for more details, so they have a roadmap, okay? But then it says approximately how long will this game be in early access? And it says we don't want to work on Stranded Deep forever. If all goes well, we're hoping to have it completed by the end of 2015. And it's now 2020 as I'm recording this. They have an update in 2016 where they basically said they wanted to add more content because the game was supported more than it was supposed to be. I'm not sure, this game might be exiting early access soon. I don't know. But all I know is it's been in limbo for about it's been in early access for 5.5 years at this point. And I've kind of like soured on even getting it, or many of these other games, because of the same thing. Factorio is a great game. It's been in early access since 2016. I think it's exiting now. And like I said, almost all these games are on here. And what I've ended up deciding was, I think that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to maybe follow these games and just wait until they full release, because I just feel like I keep getting burned on early access games. And from talking to people on my Twitch stream, many of them agree. Few of them, like I said, most of them have played similar games to me. So besides Scrap Mechanic, there has been people in there that played Scrap Mechanic, and a lot of them are in the same point where I am. I've done 30 videos on YouTube on Scrap Mechanic, and I've covered just about everything I could. And I'm not the kind of person that wants to do Let's Plays, so I could just sit there and film myself playing the game and having... If I had people to play with, it would be much more fun, but most of the people I play with, like I said, have taken a break. But there's, like, if that's your thing and you want to watch Let's Plays, and there's people that record those every day, that's cool if that's your thing. That's just not my thing. I like to put out videos when I'm putting out videos for games like how-tos or just showing cool things. And at this point, I've kind of run out of ideas for that game. And another game that many of us have played, and if you go back in the history of my YouTube channel, you'll see the first game that I covered was Fortnite Save the World. So here's my YouTube channel, and as you can see, my most recent videos have mostly been Scrap Mechanic. There's a bunch of them here. I covered a couple of other games in there, but at the start, I covered Fortnite Save the World. And for anybody that doesn't know, Fortnite Save the World is the PvE version of Fortnite. It is the original Fortnite. Battle Royale is thought to be Fortnite, but it's actually, Battle Royale was a spin-off that took advantage of the booming popularity, or the growing popularity of Battle Royales back in, I guess it was late 2017 when it started. And what they did was they took the assets from Save the World, which is a PvE survival tower defense game that is just, it was like a fantastic game, and they spun it off into a BR. And what they did with that game was to fund this, when this game released, to fund it, you had to pay for a Founders Pack. I started playing it about, like, I think 8 or 9 months after it released. I bought a Founders Pack for, I think it was like $60. They went anywhere from like $40 up to, I think it was like $200 for the highest. I bought the $60 pack. Eventually, I ended up upgrading all the way to the highest one. I spent a couple $100s on this game for the funding of the Founders Packs, as well as in-game loot boxes, which they haven't eliminated them, but they've now made them so they're not technically loot boxes, because you can see what's in them. But this game in the first month had over 1 million players, according to Epic, which means that at the very least they had about $30 to $60 million, because I think the cheapest version was $30. So they made about $30 to $60 million at least, not even including the amount of money, because I know people that had spent thousands. Some people spent $10,000 on in-game things in this game, because the only way to advance early on was to buy that stuff. It was like pay to progress, basically. And what ended up happening was Battle Royale took off. Fortnite, or Epic Games, decided to run with Fortnite, or with Fortnite Battle Royale, and I honestly don't fault them for that, because it's a good business decision to go with your cash cow. But in the process, what they ended up doing was they got the dev team from Save the World, the PvE version, And slowly over time, the game slowly started deteriorating to the point now where we sit in July of 2020 and they basically said the game is full release. And if you played the game, you know it's not. So we paid hundreds of dollars to support this game, to support the development of it over the course of years. Many people had played it in alpha. This game originally started development in 2013. It went into early access beta in 2017. It was supposed to go free to play in 2018. It was supposed to go free to play in 2019. It was supposed to go free to play at some point, and then and out of nowhere, they just decided we're not going to make it free to play. They basically sold a battle royale skin and gave you the game for $20, and have since basically put the game on maintenance mode, where they're going to basically add very minimal stuff going forward. So this was the first game that soured me on the early access thing, because up until this point, my only experience with early access games was, and it wasn't really early access, it was more like beta. So back in the Halo days of like Xbox and Xbox 360, I believe it was at Halo 3 had a beta for the multiplayer where you could play it like a month ahead of time. And basically what it was it was giving Bungie, who was the developer at the time, a chance to stress test the servers, to make sure the matchmaking was all working properly, and just to make sure everything was balanced out. And that was pretty cool. We got to play the game for a couple days. Maybe it was longer than that. I can't remember. It's been so long. And over the course of time, that was kind of what things were. And there's still games that do that right now. There's a game coming out soon called the Survivalist. I believe it's coming out at the end of the year. They had a free demo a couple weeks ago, which was kind of like I think a stress test for them. And they're going to full release. I believe the game's full releasing when it comes out. So games still do it. But for the most part, what seems to be happening is that games tend to now basically just go into early access and sit there. And instead of having a game plan of what they're going to do, or a roadmap in this case, which has been a major gripe with Fortnite Save the World, and it's also a gripe I have with Scrap Mechanic as well as some other games. Most of these games don't have a roadmap. So honestly, if a game was in early access and it had a roadmap, I'd be cool with that. I'd be able to make a decision. And I know the roadmap can't be perfect. Things change over time. Maybe the game doesn't work as the way it was intended. Maybe something wasn't balanced. Maybe the players really wanted something or really didn't want something. Maybe the devs kind of changed direction and kind of want to do this. So there could be some slight alterations. And that's fine. That way you can, but the roadmap at least gives you a picture of, here we are today. If I give you my money, how long should it be before I get a final product? And what I'm seeing when I'm scrolling through many of the games I have on my Steam wish list, and many of the games I already purchased, is that a lot of them don't even have roadmaps. They occasionally have dev updates. And what ends up happening is it's like things change from here to there. So in the case of Fortnite Save the World, and some people might argue with this, Epic has kind of like been contradictory on it in various instances. The game has 4 zones. In the 4th zone, we've all been led to believe for 2 years there was going to be a story for it. There was going to be some kind of end game content, and that's why I've been playing the same missions for so long to get all the stuff in the game. And what ended up happening was they basically just said the story's complete and the game's over. There's no story in the last zone. So after spending 2 years playing the game, some people playing it for 3, some people playing it longer if they played it in the alpha, you basically just didn't even get a final product. And on top of that, because the dev team had been gutted, the content updates started getting sparser. They started recycling content like on a regular basis. They also changed the gameplay. And if you go back and look at the old trailers of the game, it was a tower defense game. The pictures of it just show you like these massive base building. It was just base building to the maximum, where you could just watch or you could build these huge bases with cool traps and defend the objectives against the husks, which are the zombies in the game basically. And what it ended up turning into was the last couple things that came out for the special modes have all been run and gun, because it was much easier to do that. I think they were trying to appeal to a more casual player base. And in the end, what ended up happening was they can call this a final product, even if I agree that it's the final thing and they're not going to do anything else with it. It's not the game that I paid for. It's not the game that thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people didn't pay for. It's why most of the players have left the game, or they only play it sparingly. I basically play it now periodically with some friends. If my friends weren't playing it, I wouldn't play it at all. And the same thing is kind of happening, in my opinion, with Scrap Mechanic. Scrap Mechanic does not have a roadmap. So if we go to the Scrap Mechanic Steam page, so the Scrap Mechanic devs do put out patch notes. And like I said, they have really good dev blogs, and you can see what they were working on over time. And my only gripe has kind of been like the slowness of what they put out. So they've only put out 3 patches since the survival mode came out, or maybe it's been more, because some of these were actually minor bug fixes, and they put them all in here so you can kind of see what's going on. But the latest one they put out, which is currently on the experimental branch as of when I'm recording this, it's probably going to go live to the main branch soon. They're telling you what they've worked on, and in the last 6 weeks, basically what they've done is they've added some language stuff, which is cool for people in these countries. They fixed some minor things. And then down here, they have one thing. Also, a quick update on the development in general. We have some really exciting new content cooking. Up next in the next chapter, up next is a new chapter for survival mode. We can't wait to start sharing work in progress. more fixes, improvements coming soon. And there's just nothing there. Like, where's the roadmap? Like, this is perfectly fine. Like, if you want to show that, if you want to tell us there's stuff coming, that's awesome. But could you just tell us what's coming? So now I'm sitting in limbo, and because they've been putting patches out on the test server, and this came out on July 14th, so it's 17 days from the time I'm recording this is when they put it out. It still hasn't been put to the main branch. They're going to put it to the main branch, and by the time the next test branch comes out, or the next one comes out, it'll probably be like a month from now, and who knows what's going to be in there. There's really nothing. We have no idea what's happening here, other than we know there's a story mode coming at some point, and that they're working on things. But honestly, at this point, I'm at a kind of a crossroads, because I like the game and I want to play it, especially if I had friends to play it with. But at the same time, there's really nothing for me to do right now. So I played the game and I put a lot of time into it, honestly. Like I said, if I never played it again, that's fine. But at the same time, it's kind of like I feel like I was misled, and I have no idea what's actually going on with the game because there's no roadmap. And I really feel like, and please let me know down in the comments below if you feel the same way, if you disagree. Just let me know what you guys think, because early access, I think, is kind of like a hot topic now. A lot of games are going into it. Like you can see on my Steam wish list, there's so many games in early access. Everything's early access, and they use it as an excuse for bugs. So this game has bugs. This game, it doesn't have a story right now. It doesn't have a roadmap. I have no idea where it's going. I don't know what's happening with it. So I can kind of sit around and wait and hope that things happen. But who knows? Because like I said, it took 4.5 years for them to get to where they did. And I honestly kind of thought when Survival released, it was going to have, as you could see in that trailer that I showed earlier, it was just going to have something cool to play. And what it's turned into is basically like, it's kind of like Minecraft creative, but like it's kind of like Minecraft is survival when it first came out, where there's almost like nothing to do. So basically I have enough food, I have enough things where I can just do whatever I want. And that's cool. Like if that's your kind of thing. But for me, I got into the game because of the survival aspect. I thought I was going to have a story to work through. I thought I was going to have to deal with raids on a regular basis. I thought I was going to have to deal with enemies that didn't just stand there and not even attack me when I'm standing behind them. And I think this game has a lot of potential, like many games, but it's not where it is now. And that's kind of where I kind of want to leave it here. But I want to continue this discussion down in the comments, honestly. And we've been having discussions like this over on my Twitch. In fact, we did it the other night, which is where I came up with this idea. I polled a bunch of people, and basically all but one person was kind of like burned out on early access games. They kind of echoed the things that I'm saying right now, and I'm kind of also trying to say some of the things they were saying. With games are coming out, they're using early access as a crutch. We're basically paying to be testers. So kind of an analogy I came up with would be like, it's almost like in the video game industry, people feel like this is acceptable. But like, let's think about this. Let's say you wanted a bike, and I think everybody knows what a bike is. No matter how old you are, you've either had a bike, you've ridden a bike, you know somebody who has a bike, you know what a bike is. An early access game would be like equivalent to purchasing a bike that has square wheels or it has broken pedals, and you're going to pay someone to purchase that bike, and you're going to drive it around, and they're going to watch you driving it around, and they're going to fix what's broken with it. And at some point in the future, they may or may not deliver the bike that you wanted. And in the case of some games, maybe that bike turns into a scooter or something like that because they just totally decide to change course. Maybe it turns out to be what you want it to be, but it's like a lottery ticket. You have no idea what's going to happen. It's just completely up in the air. And in the case where they have like no plan on what's happening, it's just turning into like, it's basically led me to a point where I've kind of like came to a decision that at this point going forward, I'm just not going to play games. I already have games that are in this case, but I don't think I'm going to purchase any new games that are in early access unless they have certain things such as a roadmap, a dev team behind them that can be trusted. Like they've delivered products in the past that have like they delivered like well-made games that are a finished product and they have good reviews. People like them. Maybe I've played them, maybe I haven't, maybe I know people that have played them, but at least they have like positive track record. If they're a new dev, then they need to have like a solid roadmap. There's plenty of games that do that, but not many, not enough of them. So like in my opinion, if at least for me going forward, any early access games, if they don't have a solid roadmap and they don't have a solid track record, or they're not communicating, then I'm just going to wait on it and wait till the final product comes out, and whatever happens happens, because I'm just at a point now where I'm just tired of paying I'm tired of paying developers to play test their games, and by the time they finish it, I've moved on because it takes them too long, or they end up delivering a product that I'm just not even satisfied with. So yeah, that's my ramble. If you guys have any comments on this, if you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear both sides of the story, just so I can kind of get a better idea of what people are thinking. If you played Scrap Mechanic, that's awesome. If you're on my channel, you've probably played it. You may have played Fortnite in the past. Surely, if you've played any game, if you've been playing video games for more than a couple years, you've played an early access game. Many of them are free to play, so you've probably played those, or paid games. Either way, they're all the same. They end up, like, in my opinion, they end up using us as playtesters, the players as playtesters, and in the end, we may or may not get what we want. We may or may not have a good experience, and it's kind of like, it just doesn't seem like the right way. And I kind of really feel like we need to go back to the way games used to be, where a game is, if there's a beta or early access, it's just to do a final testing to make sure everything's working and that the game can be released without major bugs on day one. And rather have that than have spending 1, 2, 4, sometimes 7 years in early access and either having a game never delivered, or by the time it's delivered, you've long since forgot about it and moved on to other things. So yeah, anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you did find this video informative, please click the like button and consider subscribing for more videos like this. Once again, I do stream over on Twitch where we talk about stuff like this all the time and play some fun games. So there's a link for that down in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.